Welcome back to the Men's Roundtable Series podcast. I'm your host and moderator, Mr. U. The guys, the fellows are in the house. We have some new faces, some not so new but old faces that we still love. How you guys doing tonight?
So good.
I'm freaking standing, man. I'm fire. Let's go.
I was feeling great till you called me old.
I didn't say Scott was old, but since we're in the ballpark.
Well, but, I'll own it.
I mean, I said not so. I knew what I said, man. Come on now. All right, we're going to have fun tonight. Well, we're talking about what it looks like to be a healthy man. And I know that our minds go to specific things, because I used to be one of the gym rats, hang out in there and think that was what healthy meant. But on this show, we go a little bit deeper. We go to different levels. So I want to get into that a lot more. But before we do all of that stuff, two things I want to do. First, find out how you guys doing where you are, because this stuff happening all over the country. And I want to make sure everybody's good. And then I ask my second question. How's everybody doing where you are? Are you in danger? Blink twice if you need help. What's going on where you are? Talk to us. Oh, them pauses are too long, man. You guys are too kind.
Crickets.
Jump in.
No, I'm in the middle of wildfire lanes, man. We're in the middle of, my area where I live, it's like, 1970s bowling alley with all the smoke. It's that great of unhealthy smoke. Most of the time it has been for several weeks now. We have wildfires all across Washington State. If you look like at a satellite view, all you can see is smoke over the eastern half of Washington. So it's today's actually a reprieve. Our air quality came down out of the danger, don't go outside level, which was really nice. The public pool got to be open for a couple hours today. So that was nice. Okay. It's been closed for weeks. So I'm not in any danger of fire, but man, the pray for Washington. There thousands of people are out of homes. Spokane has been recorded as one of the worst fires in the last 40 years in the United States. So please keep us in your prayers out here in Washington. There's a lot of people struggling.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to do that, man, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I had no idea about that. I don't really dig into the news too much, man. So I'll definitely keep you guys in my prayers.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Brian, you good? Scott?
Yeah, pretty good. We did fire from Canada. Smoke, smog, and stuff. It was for a couple of days. It was inconvenient at best, but I feel for you out there for sure, Brent. We'd be thinking about you guys.
All right, Scott, you good, man?
I'm in Central Texas, so we just feel like we're on fire. But I think it was 102 today at about 80% humidity, so relatively comfortable. Wasn't too bad.
Man, I thought the heat advisory here in Tampa was bad. That's nothing compared to what you guys are cooking with.
We haven't been under 100 for 2 weeks, I think, a week and a half. And at night, it cools off to about 80, 87 degrees, nice balmy. I go for a walk at 5:30 in the morning and it's like 87 degrees outside. It's that's as cool as it gets. So.
Oh man, I think we're at topping out at 75, 80 at the moment.
It's all where you live. It's all where you live.
So nice of you guys, man. Now
we'll call each other in December and we'll sympathize in the opposite extreme.
Yeah. I doubt it. I've been down here in the South for a little bit. Like I said, I've been in Tampa, Columbia, Charleston here. I heard a number today that I never thought I'd hear in this area, in this region. I can't believe that it can't possibly be this high. 122 degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here like we out here cooking almost. We almost ready for on full board right now. So this is not.
These are the temperatures where you discover that little metal piece on the end of a seatbelt makes a perfectly good branding iron.
Yeah, man, the steering wheel alone can do that. I mean, your hands start sizzling there, so it's bad. But okay, glad you guys are doing good. If you guys are watching and listening tonight, thanks for making us part of your week. If you got any questions for ourselves, well, the panelists, or for me personally, drop it in the comments section. Try to stay on topic, or I'm going to ignore you. But drop your comments there. Happy to hear from you guys. Let's go ahead and jump in, man. So we're talking about the man I'm becoming. I think I've been kind of saving this one for a while. We had multiple series that we burned through the past 4 months of series. May, June, July. Well, 3 months. May, June, and July. It's just been really fun, man. But I want to get into this because we talk a lot about working on ourselves and fixing stuff, breaking down bad narratives and the unwritten playbook that the world uses against us and other people in the world use against us, even in our own household sometimes. I want to talk more about the road to transformation, the road to looking like what we believe we need to be looking like, or who we believe we're made and called to be. So we'll get into that, but I want to start off with a question that I want us to round robin a little bit. In your mind, in your opinion, and that can change between now and next week for sure. Total freedom there. What does a healthy man look like in your assessment? What does a healthy man look like in your assessment? I'll also drop it inside the comment section for our listeners to jump into. Go ahead.
I'll go first. I'm a health coach, so we can just define health as an active, fit individual that moves enough in the day, probably does some form of exercise, purposeful exercise, and he generally gets enough sleep, drinks his water, he eats balanced meals, and has a lot of energy to keep up with all the daily demands. Yeah, by definition, that's probably how I would do it as for a definitive healthy man.
Okay. No problem. Anybody else? What does a healthy man look like to you?
Man, how much time you guys got? Because look, health,
an hour and 10 minutes, but don't use it all.
Health is one aspect of like physical wellness, and well-being is one aspect of health. But if a man can, put up a bunch of weight or run a fast mile, or do 15 pull-ups, but the relationship with their spouse or with their kids are in shambles, that's not healthy, man.
Nope.
If they say that they're on a spiritual walk with God, but they haven't prayed in 3 months, that's not healthy.
Nope.
So I think physical health and wellness is one very important aspect of being healthy. But psychologically, like, where's your head at? What does your self-talk sound like? And more importantly, like, what conversations are you avoiding with the people that you love? So you could actually become the man that you say you want to become, man. Yeah. That's the biggest gap I've seen in so many men that are ambitious, man. They successful on paper, successful with their health, but man, their kids don't even get any time with them, or it's because they're avoiding something. They're avoiding all the hard conversations, So I think the well-rounded health is in my mind. And it takes intention and work, man. This is not something that comes naturally. It's a long-term commitment, but that's health.
Sure. Yeah. Good stuff, Tim. All right, Scott, Brent, how about you guys?
Good, Brent. You've had 2 weeks off, so
right. Yeah, I'm hot to trot. I'm good to go. No, that is such a loaded question, just because it is such a multifaceted question, right? There's not a simple, easy definition because, both our panelists are right tonight. There's the physical aspect. There's also a spiritual aspect. There's a relational aspect, and the hardest thing for any man, I think, is somehow trying to balance those, because if you've got multiple pillars you're standing on, you're constantly shifting weight from one to the other. Actually hitting a balanced, healthy man is really difficult because we all have room to grow, even if you're doing pretty well, right? Even if you've got everything in line and it seems like things are going well, you've got good relationships with your family, you've got a good spiritual relationship, your health is in control, your job is in a good spot, right? All these things that we would consider healthy and strong, there's always something that you're giving up, because the reality is you're juggling sand all the time. I mean, you're doing your best to keep it up, but something is always slipping through the cracks, and usually it's little bits at a time. You don't even notice it at first until you've lost a lot in one category, right? You may be doing well physically, health-wise, and you think you're doing pretty well, but you start to get a little less sleep, right? And you're like, well, I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I'm hydrating, and I'm sleeping pretty well, but you have to give up some sleep, so you're getting a little less sleep than you ideally get, right? There's always something slipping, so it's this constant juggling act where you feel like you're juggling sand because you can't ever totally grab a hold of it. And I think that weighs heavily on men's mental psyche really bad, because whether we say it out loud, we see these physical things that we're tied off to as lifelines that keep us stable in our life, but we constantly feel the pull from one side or the other, and we're not sure which one it is sometimes. And so we're always mentally tired because we're always trying to keep from feeling like we're missing something. Even when we're doing well, we are our harshest critics and feel like we're missing something. And I think that weighs on us mentally a lot of times.
Yeah. Good stuff, Brent. Good, Scotty.
I think well said. I agree. I think of all of those, if you ever think of the Zig Ziglar used to present on what he called the wheel of life, there's different versions out there, right? Your career, your relationships, your fun, your, all finances, spiritual walk, all of these different components of life. And I'm like Brad, I don't think we're ever, quote, perfectly healthy in all of them at any one time. It's more of now I use the word harmony instead of balance because I think of it like music, where music is in harmony oftentimes when it's a bunch of disparate things being played together the right way. But if you play those things together the wrong way, it sounds like noise, and so it is that balancing act of, maybe sometimes time with the family gives a little bit, but have you communicated that? Is your family on board with it? And is it temporary, or is that how you're always going to live? So it's that give and take and that communication and balance or harmony that I look for to really measure a healthy man. The other piece I would add is, alignment to what they say. And what I mean is walk the walk. If they say, I think it was mentioned earlier, if they say they're, God's important to me, great. What are you doing in that component of your life? Show me your calendar, show me your checkbook, show me your actual walk.
Show me the evidence.
I'm a bit of a show me guy, show me, prove it. Right. I've had people, my family's important. Great. When's the last time you spent any time with your family?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen them for 3 weeks. Huh. Okay. Is it really that important to you then? So it is that alignment, I think, that's so important. So often we lie to ourselves. We say something's important, but then when you look at the evidence, we're not walking that walk.
So good, man.
Real talk, man. I had somebody jump on my one of my posts, and I don't really spend a lot of time on it, so I don't really care what they really are saying, especially if it's something that's not an opportunity for a dialogue, but more like just a targeted attack, throwing a rock and just don't care where it lands kind of thing. I won't respond to it, but there are a lot of people, especially in the Christian realm, that are relying on grace so much that they just decided they're not going to show their work. When you were in school and the math teacher said, okay, how'd you get that answer? I mean, you got it from Tommy's test right across the desk over there. You peeked over there and copied his answers. That's why they asked you to show your work, to make sure that you understand how to get from A to Z. And there's a lot of people who are in the faith and probably in more ways like what you described, not really in it, kind of just in it marginally or whatever. They don't have the ability to show their work. They're just saying, I screwed up again. I'm not really trying, relying on grace. No real work, no real effort being employed. On this show, it's kind of a hybrid of that, because we talk about doing the work, because we talk about community all the time. We're not just guys that are sick and hurt and not emotionally mature. We want to do something about it. We try to offer some options on what we can do so that we can get, and I just sit here and bemoan where we were or where we're not at in life. We want to get someplace. We have a destination in this. There's a lot of folks, man, that they don't have that. and they rely on grace and they got no work to show for it, and they wonder why they don't have any results. So love what you guys are talking about a healthy man. I concur with all of that. I definitely think about a healthy man from a different perspective, along with what you already did, like the spiritual part of it. Like you guys said, spending the time. I know people think, you know what, if I read a chapter of the Bible, or I listen to a podcast or a YouTube video, you know, I'm doing good. I got inspired. Or I went to church on Sunday and, you know, I threw my hands up during one of the songs. Hey, God, give me some credit, you know. But there's so much more to the work that we need to do, because we got so much against us already. Not to make us victims, because we're not victims at all, but we got so much that comes against us as men, man. Husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons are hard jobs. They are not easy. Anybody that said that probably hasn't started working yet. It's a lot to deal with, especially in today's world where, you know, men can be marginalized very, very easily and frequently. So when we're talking about a healthy man, I think about the psychological part. I think one of you guys mentioned the psychological part too. I think the spiritual part. I think about the financial part too, because we're being given something. We're being given a role to be a steward of something, and how we use it, you know, it speaks to the person that gave us the assignment and how we feel about that person. So there's so many things that make us, you know, healthy. And like I think Scotty mentioned this Zig with the wheel of life. There's so many areas of health. There's physical, there's emotional, there's spiritual, there's financial. We can't get around that. So it gets kind of deep. But if you guys get more insights, we'll bring them out through the show. But let's move on to the emotional maturity piece, because I feel like that's something that I've always felt a little tension on our show when we get into this part. We already beat down the Goliath that says we don't have emotions and only women do. We already destroyed that Goliath and cut his head off. That's done. We never have that problem again on this show. We know that men have emotions. We just use them in different ways. We deal with them differently. The last time we were on air broadcasting, we got into that real deep. So we already got that thing covered. But the emotional maturity piece, you guys believe that emotional maturity is less about what you know and more about how you respond in life? You guys believe that emotional maturity looks like that?
Oh yeah, definitely going to agree with that one. The more that you're open to something, to receiving something, to finding the wisdom of what the messaging is, and having open eyes, ears to be able to understand what's happening, I think that would definitely be important in being able to receive and have a higher level of emotional abilities and feelings and all.
Dude, by design, we are programmed to withhold our feelings because we're convinced that we need to be stoic and protect and provide and preside and be the strong one, right? And where do we truly pick up these habits and learn how to respond? Not just how to respond emotionally, but how to identify our emotions and actually feel them and actually try to process them if they're a bad emotion that needs to be processed. I can't even tell you guys how much I thought I was dealing with chronic back pain because there was something wrong with me anatomically, but I had unprocessed emotions, and your body holds on to that. Your central nervous system will hold on to emotions that are not processed and present themselves as pain. And for the last couple of years, thank the Lord, I met my now wife who introduced me to something called attachment styles. And attachment styles is how you react in relationships, during conflict. And we all have an attachment style based on how we grew up. And how many of us in this room, like realistically, had parents who were in a healthy relationship, in a healthy marriage, who were embracing conflict in a healthy way, who loved each other in a healthy way? Anybody? Could anybody say that their parents were both at home where they actually demonstrated healthy conflict? Brent, dude, you are rare.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
think
no,
that's
I
why
know.
we're all sitting here and we don't know how to process emotions because our parents. My dad left when I was 8. They got divorced. I never had a male role and a father role and a provider in my home, let alone did I ever see healthy conflict. I struggled a lot with this. But then my wife taught me about these attachment styles, and in conflict in relationships, we are either securely attached or we're dismissive avoidant like me. I'm a dismissive avoidant during conflict by default. I want to avoid the conflict, dismiss it, and go avoid it completely and do something else. Do something constructive like work, right? Or go work out or go hop in the sauna, So I have to be intentional about staying in the conversation and getting curious and being like dipping into my part of my soul that actually demonstrates compassion, especially towards my spouse or towards those who I love. And so I think this is something that we have to really talk about a lot more. Like, men, you don't have to hold on to your emotions, because when you suppress your emotions, that results in depression. So suppression of expression leads to depression. I struggle with depression and anxiety for this reason. One of the darkest times of my life, man. I went through a really nasty divorce. Made a lot of poor decisions.
Wow.
Then God touched my heart and completely changed at that point. But this hits home for me, and I would love to hear everybody else's perspective. If you've ever heard about attachment styles, or how you actually deal with and process something when you get upset. I think we all have an ego, right? It takes intention for us to let our ego aside to like just be humble and show compassion. So. This is a really, really good topic, I think, for men. I think we have to talk about it more. So I'm glad you asked it, bro.
Yeah. I think many of us probably heard of a different, maybe it was just worded different regarding attachment styles. But I got a buddy of mine. He has this framework that he created. He's a really sharp guy, too sharp to come on this show. But he has this framework that he's built where he kind of talks about the premise of kind of sitting in the emotions of the problem that you're dealing with, rather than trying to quickly escape it. Sit in it and kind of process it. Not sit the so much, but kind of just sit and come to terms with how you're feeling about it and where you are before you start deciding to do something. At first, when I first heard it, he described it much more eloquent than I do. When he described it, I was like, my friend is nuts. But in hindsight, I listened more. I said, you know what? That makes sense, because I've tried the other way. When something got real hot, I tried to jump out of the fire rather than, sit there and let it cook whatever got to be cooked, to get that out of me. I would try to get away from it because it's uncomfortable. It was tense. I didn't feel like I was in control, so I had to get rid of it or extricate myself from it. But his theory is, sit in it until you come to terms with what's actually happened. Then you start making decisions about what's next and how to process. You already process what's going on. Now you can make a competent decision. So it sounds like that's kind of like what attachment styles is, like the way you described it anyway. So I think everybody here probably has some kind of a situation that kind of resembles that. Would you say, guys?
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna fight it out, man. I'm gonna jump into it, and I will fight to the death. I want to resolve it now. Right? I don't want to. I don't want to drag it out. I don't want to walk away. I want to fight till we both fall down and get this resolved, and it's over. Like
it's just like my wife, and I'm so blessed that's how she is, because I'll avoid it. And I'm so thankful that she just wants to resolve, come to an agreement. Sometimes it takes a lot of fighting, but dude, that's amazing that's you. Such a great quality to have in a man.
It's well, but it is comparatively to the person you're having the difficulty with, right? My wife, my habit to stay in the fight can actually be a huge cause of pain in our marriage.
Yeah.
Because my wife is a thinker, like she's a deep thinker. She wants to sit with it for a while and process, Congress makes decisions faster than she does sometimes.
Yeah. I noticed she watching this show from time to time, man. You sure you want to say that?
She's on the road. She's driving tonight. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel it was something like that. Okay, go ahead.
She's driving a tour bus tonight. It's cool.
Hey, Mr. You can send her the link, right?
I ain't gonna do Sarah like that. I'm not gonna do that.
And so when I push that I've had to actually learn to reel that in our marriage, because when I push, that just complicates things for us. Like, she shuts down and withdraws entirely. And then it doesn't matter what I say. Like, I can stay in the fight, but we're not actually going to resolve it because she's pulled back, right? So you have to, as much as you learn your attachment style to that, you have to understand the people you're in that relationship with or in that conversation with. Because if you push the wrong way, you're still jacking it up.
Totally, man.
And that's one of the things I think men deal with expressing our emotions. We don't ever feel like we can do it right because we don't necessarily understand how to communicate effectively. Even with really close friends, like, guys struggle with actually communicating effectively with people in their lives because we work off of the way we communicate and give very little thought to the way the other person in the conversation communicates. And so then we're just like, I don't get it. I'm trying to talk to you. And my wife's like, no, you're not. You're not listening to me. Right. And I'm like, I'm trying to listen to you. I hear what you're saying. It's like, you ain't listening to me. Right. It's this whole thing. It's cool. But it's this whole thing, right? We think we're trying to be good husbands, are good friends. And our friends are like, yeah, you don't get it. And you're like,
I say it's like you're standing there yelling in Russian and the other person only speaks German.
Right. And then you're just like, you get discouraged because you tried, but then you feel like you can't win or that you're not making any progress. And then you just withdraw from expressing those emotions again.
Yeah, it's guilty as charged. Much more of an avoider in a sense. And my parents split up when I was 12. Actually, released today was episode 144. I just talked about my fatherhood and with my dad, relationship with my father and everything. And so it's like a 30-minute episode there. And some of it's then from our conversation, Mr. You, just that. And there's another one that just was on the heart. It's like, I just need to share this. And so avoidance, like, I had my dad every other weekend, and then it trailed off after I got into college. Like, I barely see him. I don't talk to him. It's just a non-existent person. So there's no fatherly wisdom up here in a sense to pull from. And my grandparents have passed. I'm 43. So unfortunately they aren't here either. So there's not a lot of male wisdom around to be able to gain and to understand. And my wife doesn't have a lot of parental guidance or wisdom either. And so we're both over here clinging to each other, but we have our attachment styles, and I'm definitely much more of an avoidant, and she's much more of she's a talker too. So she should have been like a New York City lawyer. She would have been just crushing. It's just like, I cannot win. And I've stopped trying. So I end up avoiding conflict and just dismissing and just tucking it under the rug. Right. And it's a problem, right? That does cause issues in its own right too.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so important that first we have to understand ourselves. That's attachment style. It's more than that. It's even our communication styles, or everything. Right? There's 4,575,000,000,000 different assessments out there. Right? I don't know anybody who could take all of them, and I don't think it's like, I'm not making fun like they're bad. It's just I think we're such complex beings that no one thing tells us the whole picture. But the better we can begin to understand ourselves first, and then, as Brent said, understand the people around us and their styles and where they're coming from and all of that, that lets us move from the so-called golden rule, treat everybody the way we want to be treated, to the platinum rule, treat other people the way they want to be treated, which is a lot harder because you actually have to pay attention to how they want to be treated. It's easier if I could just treat everybody the way I am, but it's work to treat other people the way they want to be treated. And that's, to me, that's the healthier position, but it's also the harder one, especially for men.
Allow me to add a layer to this conversation real quick before you guys jump in. This might be next. Give me a second here. So we're talking about emotional healing. I want to kind of flesh and add to what we're already talking about. On a scale of 1 to 10, of course, 1 being the least, 10 being the most, how serious or how intentional are you on a regular basis about maintaining your healing? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how intentional are you about it? I know that my questions always expose us, but for the watcher and for the viewers and listeners, it's edifying for them. So, so your uncomfortability is helping people. So kind of bear that in mind. Say again, sir?
Rephrase that a little bit.
Sure. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least, 10 being the most, how intentional are you on a regular basis about maintaining your emotional healing? Does that help? What are you doing to make sure that you maintain the level of healing you had to be even more healed in certain areas? Because all we talk about, Brent, every single week is a lot of open wound stuff, man. You know? And it's like we gotta do something with that. We can't just say, okay, I'm wide open and there's no mercure comb, no nothing to kind of help us, deal with this stuff. We gotta do something. So I guess I'll try to rephrase the best way I can. On a regular basis, if you do anything to ensure that you stay on the healing track, how high is that intentionality, the effort? 10, 1, or somewhere in between? And anybody can jump in there and we'll flesh out anything I need to sandpaper if I have to. Go ahead.
To some extent, for me, I mean, the honest answer is it depends on what day of the week you're talking to me. Okay. I mean, there's periods of time where I'm very intentional about it, and there's periods of time where I badly ignore it. And then usually it bites me in the butt and forces me to pay attention again. It sneaks up on me. And Tim was talking about depression and anxiety and even, back pain. And, it starts showing up in other ways. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I need to get back into this, I need to start, taking care of my mental health or my physical health and that's the other thing. You're talking about emotional healing, but it's to me, it's healing in all those components. Like right now I'm paying more attention to my physical health because, went to the doctor and got some news from him that, not terrible, but guess what? I'm 58 and my body's older and, I don't do things the way I used to do. And he's like, dude, you got to lose some weight. I'm like, okay, I can lose, so I'm being more intentional in that component right now. But 6 months ago, I was a 2 in that area, because it was easy for me to ignore it. And now I'm saying I'm an 8, because why? I got something that made me go, you need to pay attention to this area. And I would say the same thing's true with my psychology and my emotional health. My wife and I start drifting or having fights or not communicating well. It's like, oh, crud. Yeah, we need to dive back in and make sure that our relationship is healthy. Or, my relationship with my son will show up and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm playing out my dad and the script that I grew up with. And that's not the script I want with him. So let me make sure I'm healing and paying attention in that area.
In this season of my life, I have a couple different accountability groups where I'm meeting with a small pod of 4 guys on a weekly basis. And I actually was in both those pods today. So Thursdays, I have a weekly battle rhythm with these guys, and we talk about all kinds of stuff, and we're super vulnerable with each other. And I am closely tracking 5 the most important areas in my life. This season of my life, the most important thing to me actually spells out the word grows, GROWS. So I'm paying attention to God, my walk with God. I'm paying attention to my relationship with my wife. O is the occupation, like my work. How am I really serving people at the highest level I possibly can? And my W is my financial wealth. And then S is strength and my physical strength and my health, right? So I have just like 90-day goals. I'm like, this is how I want to move the needle in this area of my life. And then every single week we report, like, what are we actually doing this week? What is the one thing we're doing this week to move the needle in that? And none of those are really geared towards healing specifically. But I think because I have just a high level of the goals and accountability and tracking those goals, a lot of those are exposed and things that need to be worked on, things that they need to be healed are exposed. And the last thing that was exposed was that I was avoiding tough conversations with my family, like my parents and my siblings. And so now I literally blocked off Fridays to ride my bike to the trail, get into nature, bring my journal, write down and think, what have I been avoiding? What conversations have I been avoiding? And I block that time out to make those calls, to do those things that I've been avoiding. And I think that really helps me and gives me the awareness to expose the gaps like in the week. So I have accountability on Thursdays, and then Fridays I block out Fridays. And that's for us here tomorrow. So I'm excited I get to go do that. And I already have an idea of what I'm going to be working on tomorrow. But I've never made an intentional pursuit towards healing a specific thing. But I think the way and how I show up, I think as things are exposed, I know what I need to work on when I need to work on them. But it's always not, hey, what am I doing to heal today? You know, that's just my situation.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No mess. Anybody else?
I'm going to say that tough conversation thing, having the conversation that you're having, that's been trending in my circle of what I'm listening to or people I'm surrounding myself. And it's something that probably goes back to those attachment styles of avoidance. And I'm just going to put my head down and start working some more and getting caught up into that. And it's obviously a signal to me is like, okay, what conversations are I not having with the right people? And so those are things that I need to slow down, especially in the one department of occupation, to then be able to start thinking about what is it that needs resolved there, because there is friction, there's heat inside me internally when that shows up. So as far as healing goes, there hasn't been a lot. I would say definitely under 5 for me in that category. And just the tough conversations probably will get me above 5, right? Like, okay, let's have at least one strong conversation. Probably the first one has to be with my wife, and just smooth out communication there on different things that we're juggling in our world with 4 kids and just a lot of busyness going on. So that we can be more on the same page as school gets going here in the next little bit.
Well, hey, I'll jump in and be the bad example here, because I'm a
bad example.
Hero.
No,
right? Well, it's kind of my role here, so my
stop.
answer is 0.
We don't. You're fired then. That's a horrible role.
Like I honestly just like my life is so preoccupied right now, where I am with launching this business and building this business, that it's 0. There's no self-care. There's no preventative care. I go from one fire to the next. If there's a problem in my family, I deal with it. If there's a problem in my house, I deal with it. If there's a problem in the business, I deal with it. I go from one thing to the next, and I go until I literally fall down. Like that's it. I've got some health issues. You and I have talked about it. I've mentioned on this show, like I've had health issues for 6 months now. I haven't been to a doctor, haven't seen a doctor, still don't trust any doctors, don't like doctors, right? It's impacting my daily life. I get up, I take some Tylenol, I take some whiskey when I need to, and I move on to the next thing and just keep going until I fall down at the end of the day and get up and I'll do it again tomorrow. 17-hour days every single day. And I go and I go and I go. So I am the worst example because I just put out fires. I move from one decision to the next to make life work. And so I know a lot of men who are probably right there where I'm at. And I'm the first person to tell you it is not necessarily the right course of action. there is a lot I know I need to work on. There's a lot that I should be incorporating. And if you ask me as a coach, when I was working with men's coaching, I will tell you a lot of things that you have heard from some of these other guys today. But I also know there's a lot of guys right now in my situation who are just fighting to survive. And we go and we go and we go until we fall down, and we suck it up and we do it some more.
Mm-hmm.
And so for all of you guys, listen, it's not ideal. And you're going to go through those times in your life. It is next stepping when you start taking those little steps to doing these things where you're actually working towards self-care, where you're actually taking care of yourself emotionally, where you're actually doing things to nurture those better parts of your life that make you healthier mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
You guys, is there one specific area that you watch that lets you know personally, I'm on the right track, I'm progressing in this area of emotional healing? Is there one thing that you look for? You say, you know what? If I'm doing good in this, that means I know I'm progressing, I'm getting there. It can be more than one, but is there at least one that kind of is your barometer, if you will, to let you know that you're kind of on track and you're growing? Because it's a scary sight if you're doing the same thing for 40 years and nothing's changing. It's like, why would you expect a different result? You haven't changed anything. It's been 4 decades. So is there at least one thing that's a barometer for you guys personally? If you don't mind, if it's not too embarrassing, you can share it, or not too personal. If you don't mind sharing it on the air in front of everybody in our safe space.
I'll
if you don't mind sharing that, then that'd be great. Go ahead.
I'll answer this really quick. As long as my relationship with my wife and daughters is okay, the rest of the world around me can burn. And that is my only barometer on success. As long as we're okay.
Sound like you're getting your wish.
Right? Yeah, sadly. As long as we're okay, right? I can wake up and go to bed with my wife and we're okay, right? We're connected, we're jiving, and it's the same with my daughters. As long as that is okay, I can throw all caution to the wind on everything else and figure I'm doing okay.
Okay.
I was gonna say the same thing, and I learned this many years ago, but I recently came across a study, a Harvard study. They did a long 100-year study, 2,000 people, and people in all different walks of life, to gauge what really creates the most amount of fulfillment and happiness over 100 years. And they realized that they concluded it's not money, it's not, success on paper, it's not worldly possessions, it's those who had the highest quality relationships lived the longest and were the happiest for the longest amount of time. And so, to your point, Brent, you kind of scared me when you sort of described how you just go from fire to fire or fire, you're not paying attention to your health. But the fact that the thing that matters to you most is the quality of the relationship with your wife and your daughters, that warms my heart a little bit. That makes me feel like you actually are, you're in a safer place than you kind of came off to be, because I feel the same way. Like, the people that love me and everything, like all around me, the quality of the relationships with people that I love and love me back, that's the number one way to quantify success and happiness.
I don't think you're going to get a different response from me either. My wife tends to tell me whether I'm on track or not, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, my wife's an empath. Like, she could walk into a room and she'll tell you who's upset before she's talked to anybody, and I'm looking at her going, "What are you talking about?" So
same situation.
If she walks up to me and goes, "Dude, something's out of whack," I've learned to trust her because something's out of whack, and I need to stop and listen. So I didn't used to trust her on that. I used to, I'll fight through it and do it my own way. And yeah, I got smarter because it's a lot easier to listen to the wisdom.
Dude, women have this spiritual knowing. They have this sixth sense, and I don't think it's ever going to change. Some of them, maybe it's stronger. They're more hypersensitive to it. But it's hard for me to trust it sometimes. But again, I told you earlier, my wife is a gift from God, and she has a very strong conviction when it comes to that intuition with people. And if the temperature in the room is just, she's not feeling it, then I gotta listen to her.
I run business deals. I run opportunities net buyer because she's like, nope, doesn't smell good. Okay, I ain't doing it. I guess I don't see it, but she does. So, but as I would also agree with Brett, and that's my measure, and honestly, that's my most important thing is my family. Is my relationship with my wife, is my relationship with my son. It's not that the other stuff is not important, but if those two things aren't right, everything else will definitely not be right. But if I get all that other stuff right and those two are bad, it doesn't matter. I'm lost. So that's why those two for me are the biggest barometer.
Well, thank you for quantifying that. I appreciate it. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, definitely. My wife's an empath as well, and I don't listen to her as much as I should. And I have accepted that quite a bit more. Being open to her is really important. I identify with being strong with the family, and I have 4, so time is really stretched thin to be able to manage all 4 of them, plus provide, plus whatever else. Today I ended up doing 2 hours of pulling weeds in the backyard. That time that it needed to be done, but it wasn't the best allocation of my time. And I personally have a lot of struggle or challenge with trying to figure out how to manage that time and find that balance in all of this stuff. But when I do spend time with the family, like we just got back from Alaska for a week. We were in Machu Picchu in spring break. We're going to go to Ireland during Thanksgiving. So we do big things, but now is the time that I need to put my head down to work, to pay the bills to go do those things. And when there's that friction there of the dad guilt, or it's just not spending the time with them, that ends up being an internal struggle for me. And so when we go back to healing, this is a really good point of just, again, some internal heat is getting turned on of I'm not paying as much attention to the healing aspect of this. I take really good care of myself. I'm healthy, fit. I try and do my best for everyone that is around me. But the allowing my guard to be let down to get some healing in there is definitely a thing that I need to pay more attention to, and having more open conversations with people closest to me, especially family, or I have 2 really close friends that I share a lot with, and so that needs to happen.
Love that. Before we drop our next question, and perhaps our final question for the night, Brent, because you've been with us so long, longer than everybody else is on the screen, and I didn't say the O word, just not. I wasn't even thinking that. Can you speak to what Brian just said about? Because I think that what Brian said is what men have come through this men's roundtable series carousel, and they've had that same kind of feeling. They know how much community matters, how much community can change your life. They know that needing somebody isn't a crime or a sickness or some malady they need medication for. They know that it means something and it's important, but they still have a struggle with, like he said, letting the guard down. Can you speak to that? You can share from your own experience from when you started with us, way back in the day to now. If you want to speak to that, if anybody wants to jump in after that, I'll give you free reign to do that. Go ahead.
I told you I'm the black sheep. I'm the bad example. No, I know exactly what you're talking about, Brian, because this is where a lot of us start, and a lot of us still are. Right? I've been part of this. You and I started this over a year ago now, right?
Oh yeah. Happy anniversary.
And it's been like, I have struggled with it since day one. It's always been a struggle for me. I have difficulties because I grew up on the move all the time. I have difficulties developing strong connections with other people. When I was saying my wife, my children are my barometer, literally the rest of the world could burn. I don't care. as long as they're okay, right? I don't care about anybody else. Like, we can wipe out everything else. That is my stability in my life. And I don't mean that mean. It's just, I learned to not be attached and not get attached to people. And so it's been a struggle. Like, I've been one of the ones with the most struggles in this, I think, in my life since day one, because letting other people close to me has always been difficult. But then because of that learned habit of keeping people distance, because we moved every 2 to 3 years my whole life. But letting men close to me is, I'm even more guarded about that. I keep them at an arm's distance. I have worked for years intentionally trying to break that down. And I've gotten closer with the guys in this group. I have a men's Bible study I go to every Monday and have for several years now. And I love those guys. I still don't talk to them a whole lot outside of the Bible study, right? I had a group of guys I was doing a game night with every week. And that was actually probably a big inroad with me for a long time. And then I had to stop going to that. But those guys I was actually closer with. I actually interacted with. We had real conversations while we were playing whatever game we were playing. But it's always been a struggle. And I know I need it. I know it makes my life better. And I constantly find excuses not to engage and not to do it. And I think that's a lot of our listeners. A lot of our listeners understand it's a good idea. We understand that it actually makes our life better or would make our lives better. But we're so guarded. We make excuses. We make reasons why not, why it won't work, why we don't have time for it, why it doesn't fit in our lives. And it is a self-protection thing. And it's really difficult to start to break that down and go, in the end, I'm really just afraid to let anybody be that close to me. And that is a hard pill to swallow. I've got 2 or 3 male friends in my life that are as close as brothers, and everybody else I keep at a mile away. And so it is a journey. It's an ongoing journey. Like I said, I've been in men's coaching for years now. I've been in men's podcasting for years. And it is a constant struggle and a constant journey. And I have to be really intentional about trying to forge those relationships. I know without question, I could call Mr. U anytime during the week. There's not a question in my mind that I couldn't just like pick up the phone and be like, yo, bro, I need to talk to you. And he'd be like, yeah, let's talk. Right. Not a question in my mind. I still don't do it. I still don't pick up the phone. I still like you can say, how many times have I just called you and been like, bro, I need somebody to talk to, right? I don't do it because even though I know it's there, I know it might actually make life better. It would help me. I still don't do it because I'm afraid to trust anybody to help me shoulder that burden. So, where you're at right now, understand it's just a growing spot and it's something you're going to work on, and it's something you're going to work on for probably a long time. Because it's especially if you didn't have a positive male influence in your life growing up, it's a really hard boundary. It's just something you have to become very intentional about and just roll with the setbacks and keep pushing forward.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think that's one of the reasons why I even started my own men's group, the Call to Rise. So it's more focused around health, fitness, nutrition initially, but as it continues, it's like, hey, showing up as the man you want to be, the legacy that you want to live, being there for your kids and that leader in the family, and starting to cultivate those relationships and that environment to even push myself to step up to that level. So I guess that's why I'm even here in the first place, of just seeing what Mr. U's putting on and doing and connecting with him. So
we do it better side by side. That's the way men will do this. We need to do something together side by side to be able to bond like that. Mm-hmm. So I think you're on a great path. I think your group's going to help you a lot with that. I miss my gaming group for that reason, because there was a lot of side by side conversation over D&D, dude.
Yeah.
Well, and guys oftentimes need something else like that to be able to open up. If we're working on a shed together, we could talk about stuff that we're not going to sit down at the table across from each other and talk about, but if we're out working on the shed together, okay, now it's okay.
I got 3 male friends that 2 of them I work out in here and the other one I run with, and we're all fathers. We've got 3 or 4 kids. We're all in like that middle school, high school range, juggling. 2 of them have businesses. So it's busy, but those are times that we schedule together to be able to connect and talk about deeper things. And through the act of exercise, the physical expression of our movement, we're able to open up and connect. And those are always really good times to spend together. I spent it with my friend today. He came over and we worked out and just chatted and acted like we're in high school again together. So
the common thing I'm hearing is that you guys are intentional about it. Or Brent, like you sound like you need to be more intentional about it. Like this, you don't just appear in the right rooms. It doesn't just happen, right? We have to be intentional. And I'm blessed that I'm, in this room with you guys, and that's why I shared earlier that I am, I paid to be in this men's mastermind group with high level entrepreneurs, CEOs, investors, to get that level of accountability. That's where the accountability groups come from. Like I'm intentional about like showing up and being around these other individuals that are probably facing very similar challenges as me. And the more vulnerable that we can get in those rooms, the more help we're going to get, right? And the more we're going to be able to grow. But nobody teaches you, be intentional about the rooms that you're in and be vulnerable. And, especially like the old masculinity is like, be strong, be courageous, like just handle it and shut up, but like us, I think it's cool that we're having these conversations. These are more and more vast because vulnerability equals strength in men today. And I think that's becoming more and more apparent. Like the more you could actually open up and share and like, I'm sorry, it was my fault. Like put the ego aside when you're in those rooms, especially with other alpha males, right? Where it's even harder and you could show up. You guys are intentional about that. I'm intentional about it. If I wasn't intentional about it, dude, you cannot grow in isolation. And here's the reason why, because in our society, we are programmed to stay safe, to not take risks, to go to school and get a degree and go work for somebody because that's the safe route. Have somebody else take the risk. So our brain, like we're programmed to just be conservative and not take risks. And when we isolate, that part of your brain that wants you to stay small is going to win the negotiation when you have these ideas to go, go for freedom and be ambitious and achieve greatness. Your part of your brain that wants you to stay small and conservative is going to win if you continue to isolate. Because that's how we're designed. We are programmed to not take risks. We are programmed to be safe, right? So it's all about intentionality. It doesn't magically happen. You don't just run it. You don't just show up into those rooms. So it's great to hear that you guys are being intentional. And Brian, I feel like you're gonna maybe get a fire lit under your butt now to be in those rooms with those men that you've already got that relationship with. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough to like create that relationship, and now you have this relationship. You're like one phone call away, one DM away, and to really like lean on somebody in a time of need, right? And so I hope that you reconnect with you guys, man.
What's really funny is we already acknowledged that like I was really blessed. I grew up with great, amazing parents who were together there up until my dad passed away. My mom still lives with me after my dad passed. I grew up with amazing parents. My dad was 6'5". He's a big dude. He was a very emotional and vulnerable man. Like
that's awesome.
He looked like a bear, but he was a big emotional man. He was a pastor. He loved everybody. Like he would cry in front of other people, never face him, right? With that example, I went the pure other way towards the more stoic, old school, despite the example I had. And you guys are heading the other direction towards vulnerability and openness without that set example in your life. Whereas I recoiled and went the other way from it. So it's very interesting, the differences and how that affects you.
Yeah, man.
Well, the other thing you said, Brent, when you were talking was it as well as being intentional, that it's kind of a constant journey or process. You said you don't think you ever really finish it. Well, I got a few years on, everybody else on this call, and I haven't finished it yet, and I know people older and wiser than me that are mentors of mine, and they haven't finished it yet. I don't think it is I don't think the point is to finish. I think the point is to go, to travel, to continue to grow and improve and change. I think the minute we start looking at it as something that we finish, by definition, it means we stop. And it doesn't stop. You've got young kids at home right now, Brian. Your phase in your life is completely different. I'm now an empty nester. My phase, that phase is completely different, but guess what? I still call or text my son every single day to say, I love you. Why? Because I never heard that growing up. And I'm like, he's going to hear that from me every day until I die or he dies. I made that as a vow. And so I still do it to this day. He's 23 now. Sometimes I think he's kind of like, yeah, dad's a little weird, but he loves me for it.
Yeah, he'll
so
come back
okay.
at 33, right? Like, I appreciate that, Dad, right?
Oh, he appreciates it now. He just thinks I'm a little weird, but he's not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I am. It's okay. I'll own it.
All right. Any closing thoughts, guys? This was fantastic. This is just part one, and look what happened.
I don't know, man. If you're listening to this, don't just take all this in and then go do nothing with it. At least ask yourself a question that you heard, or at least take some insight that you heard and say, how could I apply that in my life? Or maybe just simply ask your question, what is that hard thing that I'm avoiding? Is it a relationship? Is it a conversation? Is it responding to an email? Is it sharing your feelings with somebody about you, or asking for forgiveness? What is that hard thing you're avoiding? And maybe do that with me tomorrow, because that's what I'm going to spend a couple hours in the woods doing tomorrow. And I'm going to journal about it. And then I'm going to have those conversations, do that thing. I intentionally block that time out because I'm a person that avoids. So if you are, maybe you're not, but maybe this will help. Think about what you have been avoiding. What is that hard thing that you're avoiding? And commit to it tomorrow. In the next 24 hours, just go do it and just see what happens.
Well, my closing thought is that the guys on this panel, not just the ones listening, they take that same advice. Do something tomorrow, because next week, whether you're on stage or not, I'm going to be calling on you. I'm going to ask you. I mean, they go to the woods. Brent definitely can't go to the woods right now, but in your place of solace, like Tim is going to get tomorrow, what are you going to do? That's the difference between who you are now and who you're going to become, what you do every single day. Men's Roundtable Series podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. We're out here.